The tow truck didn't scare me. The clipboard didn't scare me. Even the HOA, Karen standing at the end of my driveway with a smug smile didn't scare me. What scared me was the look on her face when she realized she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. Because the moment that garage door opened, everything she thought she knew about power, rules, and control came crashing down. This wasn't just another HOA complaint. This was the beginning of a public unraveling she never saw coming. It started 3 weeks earlier, when I received my first warning notice for unauthorized vehicle presence. Apparently, parking my legally registered truck inside my own garage was a violation. I laughed it off, assuming it was a clerical error. Then came the fines. $100, then $200, then threats of towing. Each letter was signed by the same name, printed boldly at the bottom like a challenge. Karen. Neighbors whispered about her like a storm warning. She had fined people for leaving trash cans out too long. She'd written citations for porch decorations. One family moved out after she claimed their children's chalk drawings were structural vandalism. But this time, she picked me. I sent emails. I attached photos. I quoted bylaws. Silence. Until one morning, I woke up to the sound of heavy diesel outside my house. A tow truck sat in my driveway, engine idling, chains clanking like teeth. Karen stood beside it, arms crossed, already recording on her phone. She announced loudly that my vehicle was being seized for repeated non-compliance. I told her calmly that the truck was in my garage, registered, insured, and approved. She smiled and said the HOA had final authority. The tow driver looked uncomfortable but followed instructions. That's when I walked to the garage door. Karen rolled her eyes, confident. The driver sighed, clearly wanting to finish the job. I pressed the button, and the door began to rise slowly, mechanically, revealing something neither of them expected. The tow driver froze. Karen stopped smiling. And in that moment, the power dynamic shifted so fast you could almost hear it crack. Because what was inside that garage didn't just change the tow driver's mind, it turned him completely against her. The garage door lifted all the way and the silence that followed was loud. Inside wasn't clutter, junk, or some abandoned project like Karen clearly expected. Instead, the space was spotless, organized with military precision. Cameras lined the ceiling corners. Framed permits were mounted on the wall. A professional hydraulic lift held my truck mid-air, its undercarriage gleaming. Tool cabinets were labeled, sealed, and locked. Everything screamed compliance. The tow driver stepped forward without being asked. He scanned the permits, checked the VIN plate, and crouched to examine the lift. His entire posture changed. This wasn't an illegal setup. This was a fully documented, HOA-approved private workspace. Karen tried to speak, but he raised a hand, stopping her cold. He asked me if the HOA had inspected the garage recently. I told him they never responded to inspection requests. His jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone and began taking photos. Not of my truck, but of the posted approvals, the bylaws I had framed, and the timestamps on my security cameras. Karen's voice grew sharper. She insisted the tow was authorized. The driver asked for written confirmation. She waved her phone, claiming it was handled internally. He shook his head. He explained, calmly but firmly, that towing a vehicle from a compliant, private garage without documentation exposed his company to lawsuits. He said the word illegal out loud. That's when Karen lost control. She accused him of insubordination. She threatened to call the police. She said the HOA would have his contract terminated. He didn't raise his voice. He simply turned his body away from her and addressed me instead. He apologized. Then he did something I didn't expect. He called his dispatcher on speaker and reported the attempted tow as a fraudulent request. He named Karen directly. He documented the HOA's actions. He even asked me if I wanted to file a formal complaint through their legal department. Karen's phone lowered slowly. Her confidence drained in real time. Neighbors had started gathering, drawn by the tension. Cameras came out. Whispers spread. The tow driver packed up his equipment, but not before telling Karen clearly that if she attempted this again, his company would refuse all HOA requests. He said they didn't work with bullies. As he drove away, Karen stood alone in my driveway. Exposed, recorded, and suddenly powerless. She had come expecting obedience. Instead, she had created a witness. And witnesses change everything. The fallout was immediate. Within hours, the video footage spread through the neighborhood group chat. Karen's raised voice. The tow driver's refusal. The moment her authority collapsed, comments poured in from residents who had stayed silent for years. Stories surfaced. Receipts were shared. Patterns emerged. By the next morning, the HOA board issued a vague email about procedural misunderstandings. No apology. No acknowledgement, but the damage was done. People were asking questions they had been too afraid to ask before. How many fines were legitimate? How many threats were empty? How much power did one person really have? That afternoon, I received a call from the tow company's regional manager. He thanked me. Apparently, Karen's behavior wasn't new. My garage had simply given them proof. They were terminating their HOA contract entirely. Effective immediately. No more towing enforcement. No more intimidation by truck. Karen tried to recover by issuing violation notices to half the street. It backfired. Residents demanded hearings. Lawyers were mentioned. The board scheduled an emergency meeting. For the first time, Karen wasn't running it. I attended that meeting. She sat at the end of the table, quiet, defensive, clutching papers that suddenly meant nothing. When I presented my documentation, the room shifted. When I played the tow footage, it sealed her fate. Board members asked her direct questions. She dodged. They pressed harder. Finally, someone asked why she ignored inspection requests. She had no answer. By the end of the night, Karen was stripped of enforcement authority pending review. Fines were frozen. An independent audit was approved. People applauded. Not me, I just watched. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was about exposure. Power only works in the dark. The moment light hits it, everything changes. As I walked home, neighbors thanked me. Some apologized for not speaking up sooner. I told them the truth. I didn't do anything special. I just opened a door. And sometimes, that's all it takes. Karen resigned 2 weeks later. No announcement. No farewell email, just gone. The audit revealed dozens of improper fines, selective enforcement, and unauthorized actions. Refunds were issued quietly. Policies were rewritten. Transparency became mandatory. The tow company never returned. And honestly, no one missed them. My garage is still the same, clean, legal, documented, but now it represents something else. Proof that preparation beats intimidation. Proof that rules only matter when applied fairly. Proof that even the loudest authority figure can crumble when faced with facts. What surprised me most wasn't Karen's downfall. It was the change in the neighborhood. People wave now. Meetings are civil. Questions are welcomed. Fear is gone. All because one person pushed too far and someone else refused to back down. I didn't plan to make a statement. I just wanted to protect my home. But the moment that garage door opened, it stopped being about me. It became a reminder. If someone relies on threats instead of truth, they're already losing. And when they demand silence, documentation is your loudest weapon. So if you ever find yourself standing in your own driveway, being told you don't own what you clearly do, remember this story. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't arguing. It's opening the door and letting reality speak. If you enjoyed this HOA drama and want more real stories like this, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me whether you think Karen crossed the line. Your support helps this channel grow and brings more stories like this to light.